Well, this all started with the Arab Spring, the Arab Awakening, and then the rebellion in Libya. And then I was supporting the rebellion in Libya, and I began to investigate more and more. And I realized a lot of things didn't add up, a lot of things stank badly. Um, and so I went out, I decided YouTube videoing and blogging and all of that crap, you don't have any idea if you're impacting people or not. It's very difficult to say. And it's narcissistic. Um, you get more caught up in this pyramid of people you want under you than in actual social change. It can happen. So I went out on the street and I bought a pack of cigarettes or filled my gas tank. I just asked people, do you know what's happening in Libya? So I asked in Redwood City, two Chicano guys buying beer, two Asian ladies and a Hispanic guy at the gas station, the UPS guy, African American guy, two down and out black guys. Then I asked a young white guy at the hardware store in Pacifica and the checkout girl at the hardware store in Pacifica. She was the only one who even knew. That's, I think, 11 people. 10 of them didn't even know we were in Libya, bombing Libya. Of course, through our little sock puppet, NATO. So if you're trying to have social change or justice, how are you going to do it with people that don't even know their country is waging war? Okay, so first problem is people need to have more education. So I was listening to Kurt Vonnegut, and Kurt Vonnegut's last book. If you don't know who Kurt Vonnegut is, he's one of the best, most important writers in America in the 60s and 70s. Um, and he decided that he had no country left because when he was in the Great Depression, he went to high school at a great high school, and he thought we'd have the public schools that were the envy of the world. We have a terribly high infant mortality rate. We have a very high poverty rate. We have an incredibly high incarceration rate. So what are you going to do? How are you going to? So I called one of these social justice networks that still has a Black Panther with them because the Black Panthers had uh, been in touch with Libya, let's put it that way, and had gotten support from Libya, and they weren't interested in helping. Um, so kind of this, passive ear pieces there. And so how are you going to educate these people? Well, let's say you wanted to help organize poor people and educate them. We have 10 million people lost their rights in this country. So those people are scared to and can't really get politically active because they've been branded with an F, felon. Um, Most of them for minor property crimes, basically because they didn't have enough money and they broke the law. In my opinion, being a thief is a job. It's a very low paying and very risky job if it's just pure property crime. Then drug addicts. So our prisons are full of these types of people, and they cannot really fully recover ever. Plus, once they get out, they're hounded and harassed over minor technicalities. Anybody who knows anything about this knows what I'm talking about because it's a business, apparently, incarceration. So if you tried to organize these people, you've got a big problem. And that problem is that we no longer have any rights. That's right. You don't have any rights if you're an American. The Patriot Act trumps the Constitution. So all you would have to do if you got 50 people in the ghetto doing jumping jacks every day with you and gave them education about the fact that we're in Libya, you already could be on a terrorist list just right there. So you're not allowed to organize and resist the government. And you could do it, and maybe nothing would happen, but there's a hammer over your head. So this country is dead. It is unrecognizable. We have sold our rights off. So we got 10 million people that are felons. Then we got another 10 million that are illegal aliens. That's now starting to build up because they don't have any rights either. They can't resist and they can't organize because they're afraid. And then the people don't know what's going on. And it's an impossible situation. And so what forced me to come down here and record this, two things, I guess. One was in my studies of the Patriot Act, I happened to ask myself, what about the Tea Party? The Tea Party voted 135 for the Patriot Act to 18 against. Now, every one of us in this world, if you go back 400 years, has 20,000 great grandparents and 20,000 great grandparents. We've all got kings and queens in our bloodline. So I happen to have traced mine. Mine goes straight back to the Revolution and the Civil War and all of that. And they wouldn't consider what we are today, America. We're much worse than the British they were fighting in terms of the fact that we've sold off our Constitution without even noticing it. We do not have a Constitution as long as the Patriot Act exists. And so I was just, I had been trying to tell liberals and progressives in the Bay Area that not to judge the Tea Party because of Ron Paul, basically, and Rand Paul. And 135 voted for the Patriot Act, claiming it passed their constitutional litmus test with flying colors. And I can tell you this right now, you're full of it. With all due respect, you need a lot of education. I shouldn't say you're full of it. You have many layers of onion you need to peel away to open your eyes. This thing is very creepy, and it basically makes political dissidence illegal, a la the Soviet Union. Now, if you study totalitarian states, which is basically where we're facing right now, the state now has the power of a totalitarian state. In other words, like Hitler or Stalin. That's the rights we've given them with this Patriot Act. If you try to start any kind of political movement that is perceived as dangerous to the authorities, you could be arbitrarily arrested forever and tortured. So what do? You leave the United States. How do you reform it? See, one base of support you could have to fight the manner in which all our money is getting shoveled into this police and military system, which produces nothing. Its only capability is to hurt people, and it wants to be used. It's very, very difficult to get a way out of this box. So that was one thing. The other thing was, as I saw today on Al Jazeera, this soldier's video diary, and they tried to use it against the Gaddafi regime, but it just burned in my heart. If you see this soldier's video diary, he's a very good-looking young man, and these are people fighting for their country, and the guy who takes it, he's dead. His boss, his leader, is dead. We're just killing these bastards. I don't think it was the rebels who shot him. I think it was NATO. And either way, the rebels couldn't have done it without NATO. And the rebels is a nest of every kind of government in the world. Every country in the world right now is getting a piece of dismembering this country. It's not going to even be recognizable. Doesn't matter, for the sake of argument for now, whether Gaddafi was a totalitarian or not. It's just disgusting to see the country dismembered by opportunists. It's like, this is what happened. What kind of made Stalin possible was that after the Russian Revolution, there were so many foreign agents. The entire Czech army was in Siberia. So many foreign agents trying to stop that revolution. Um, so there's a song by David Bowie called "This Is Not America," and I never really realized what that song meant until now. So, all of our money has been funneled into this military system, this correctional system. And then I saw this video diary, which you can find on YouTube, that Al Jazeera said, "Oh, this is going to do more damage to Gaddafi's regime than NATO or the rebels," which is just absurd. But thank God that any person with an ounce of sense could see through Al Jazeera's distortion, and that because they just ran the tape, and it was just heart-rending um, to think that nobody's allowed to live differently than the United States military thinks they should. They had the highest, I've said this before, they've had the highest standard of living in Africa, the best education system in Africa, the lowest infant mortality, lower than here in the US, I think, lower poverty rate, I believe, than here in the United States. Basically, we have two tyrannies, if you want to call it that. One tyranny invades and destroys countries, the other one armed rebellions. And then I've a congressperson that I've tried to work to help, who's a local California, and he was treated so disrespectfully on one of the comedy shows today. It's just a zoo. It's just absolutely, it was disgusting. So the country's in grave danger. It's probably already lost. So let's find out what happens.